Point out that with us are many family members of citizens who were subject to human radiation experiment. When President Clinton came to Washington, he was dedicated to the task of rebuilding the relationship of trust between the citizens and its government. This advisory committee report, the president's response, and the actions he will direct many of us to take today are all evidence of our commitment and his commitment to rebuild the trust with the American people. Why did we do this? Why did the president direct his administration to open the doors on human radiation experiments? And today, another step of that openness is coming clean on the human radiation experiments. We did not realize when we began this journey the difficulty of the charge given these citizens. Eminent ethicists, physicians, scientists, citizens, even lawyers. For the past 18 months, the advisory committee members and their staff have devoted much of their lives to this investigation. The nation owes to them, to their families, and to all the staffs that have worked on this issue, the generous gratitude for their public service, and most importantly, for the recommendations which the president will receive shortly.
By these events. In our report, we recommend for your consideration guidelines for compensating former subjects. But if we are to keep faith with those who have suffered, we must all do more. Your extraordinary efforts have allowed the American people to learn about a piece of our history that we could not otherwise have understood. Information must not be concealed again from people in their own time, so that it takes 2 generations for the truth to come out.
The other committee members, please stand. Let's give them all a hand. They did an extraordinary job. At the very least, they could trust the United States government to tell the truth and to do the right things. So you have to understand that for me, one reason this is so important is that I see it as part of our ongoing effort to give this government back to the American people. But none of these efforts can succeed unless people believe that they can rely on their government to tell them the truth and to do the right thing. We have declassified thousands of government documents, files from the Second World War, the Cold War, President Kennedy's assassination. These actions are not only consistent with our national security, they are essential to advance our values. So to me, that's what this is all about. And to all those who represent the families who have been involved in these incidents, thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. In one experiment, scientists injected plutonium into 18 patients without their knowledge. In another, doctors exposed indigent cancer patients to excessive doses of radiation, a treatment from which it is virtually impossible that they could ever benefit. The report also demonstrates that these and other experiments were carried out on precisely those citizens who count most on the government for its help, the destitute and the gravely ill. But the dispossessed were not alone. Members of the military, precisely those on whom we and our government count most, they were also test subjects. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment, and that was wrong. Those who led the government when these decisions were made are no longer here to take responsibility for what they did. They're not here to apologize to the survivors, the family members of the communities whose lives were darkened by the shadow of the atom and these choices. When the government does wrong, we have a moral responsibility to admit it. The duty we owe to one another to tell the truth and to protect our fellow citizens from excesses like these is one we can never walk away from. We know there are moments when words alone are not enough. That's why I'm instructing my cabinet to use and build on these recommendations, to devise promptly a system of relief, including compensation, that meets the standards of justice and conscience. When called for, we will work with Congress to serve the best needs of those who were harmed. Make no mistake, as the committee report says, there are circumstances where compensation is appropriate as a matter of ethics and principle. I am committed to seeing to it that the United States of America lives up to its responsibility. That's why this morning I signed an executive order instructing every arm and agency of our government that conducts, supports, or regulates research involving human beings to review immediately their procedures in light of the recommendations of this report and the best knowledge and standards available today, and to report back to me by Christmas. I've also created a bioethics advisory commission to supervise the process, to watch over all such research, and to see to it that never again do we stray from the basic values of protecting our people and being straight with them. Medical and scientific progress depends upon learning about people's responses to new medicines, to new cutting-edge treatments. Without this kind of research, our children would still be dying from polio and other killers. Without responsible radiation research, we wouldn't be making the progress we are in the war on cancer. We have to continue to research, but there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. Times of crisis and fear can call forth bad science, even science we know in retrospect to be unethical.